Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast where we explore all things cinema, and Janaé is already laughing, which I suspected happening. Let's welcome back my ongoing guest, my Anthony Perkins in crime guest, I like to call her, Janaé Rachel Ballo, who is a writer and director of projects managed, contract player. She is currently about to begin post on a feature film called Disassociated Me. And she also has a film. She might not have supposed to mention that.
Just that is that's enough. Yeah.
I was lastly just gonna say don't fence me in, which
Yeah, I thought you were too. I thought you were gonna say don't fence me in. And I was like, oh my gosh, she mentioned it. He mentioned it. He mentioned it. Yeah.
of course I'm gonna mention that because that's what especially Anthony Perkins fans want to hear. For people who have seen our past reviews with movies featuring Perkins, Janaé has written a feature length film on the life of Anthony Perkins. So don't fence me in, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about down the road. So finally, Janaé, welcome back. It has been a little while.
Yes, I got hit by a car last time, and I went into recovery and hiding, and then filming.
Well, we saw last time I couldn't remember if you had the bandage, and you did, but now
I had a little pillow on my head that I slept on. And now it's not there. I mean, I have so many scars. I have so many scars all over my body. So that sounds really it's good for 9 o'clock in the morning. But I don't care anymore. People make jokes of like Harry Potter right here. Do you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's healing nicely, and that's surprising because it is my head.
Well, thank God that it's healing nicely.
Yeah, my scans are in the clear. They're doing well.
Perfect.
Now, if only the psychiatrist says so as well. That would be a double. Yeah.
Next is to work on the scars on the inside, and then
right,
which is always the hardest to treat.
At one. Yeah, I mean, dissociated me, right? Yeah.
Well, for
okay,
people,
so now let's talk about sex.
Yes. So Crimes of Passion. Wow, what a film. For people who haven't seen it, this was directed by the great Ken Russell. It was written by Barry Sandler. It starred Kathleen Turner, of course, Anthony Perkins, John Laughlin, and Annie Potts. I'll read a little synopsis here. Joanna Crane lives a double life. During the day, she works as fashion designer, but during the night, she is the high-class prostitute China Blue, as she is accused for industrial spying. Bobby Grady is hired to shadow her. However, they fall in love. Meanwhile, a psychopathic preacher starts stalking her. All right. Well, do you remember when you first saw this, Janaé, and what did you initially think?
I do. I remember I saw it at 14, 15. And when you're high and you're watching that movie, that's not good. Like, that can really mess with your head and cause problems with your head that you have to fix down the line. But yeah, I remember being completely and utterly freaked out.
Yeah.
So there's that. And I still am today. Movie it's completely warped. When I told Savannah that I was doing this with you and you picked this movie out of all movies, she went like, that's not good. You just hear this.
What? Yeah. What was this only the second time you saw it before today? Or had you seen it more?
No, I saw it like 3 times. But the scene before today, but the scene that I saw on like repeat was Anthony Perkins at the piano saying, "Forget your troubles, come on, get happy." I would watch that again and again, thinking This
That is
is
so crazy.
yeah. I mean, he's like he's with a dildo singing Judy Garland.
No one is more perfect for a deranged preacher than
It's true.
Anthony Perkins, And it's so interesting because you and I have discussed many Perkins films now, and so many of
This
these
is
are like not really well, like a lot of them are not like widely well known, but some of them obviously, like there are the iconic ones, of course, like Psycho and things like that. But a lot of them I'm like, wow, like I've before talking to you, I didn't even know about these movies. They may have been more well known in Europe when his time there. But this one has kind of developed like a cult classic. It was like a mind. It didn't. I don't. I think it didn't do great when it came out, but it started to do better on video and things like that. But what were some of the things that you saw in it? Like what do you think this was all about?
well, there's a ton to unpack with this one. I mean, there's the fact that one thing that called to mind, and right now, out of like 1,000 different things, but going back to Savannah and talking about it with Savannah because we did watch it together. When we first saw it, we watched it together. She said something that was interesting. I agree with. You don't underestimate crazy. Like Kathleen Turner's character just finds Perkins to be sort of this sad,
Oh,
crazy,
yeah.
sad, pathetic, oh, leave him alone. He's just, he's a little cuckoo and he's harmless. You don't need to worry. You don't need to worry about those people. How people can actually think of the homeless, they can just go, wow, that person has just lost their mind. Isn't that so sad?
Right.
And but people like that, what happens? Just like Perkins's character, they eventually do snap, and people underestimate those crazies. I find that to be interesting because the movie itself does talk about double lives and how one thing is not the same as the other, and these juxtapositions in our lives, whether it's fulfilling desire or trying to fill lust or some sick, you're only as sick as your secrets. I mean, these are all different themes that run through this movie, but it's just too freaking warped to watch. It's like
It's certainly a transgressive film. But I like what you said. It's true. Like she does kind of underestimate how
oh yeah,
clearly dangerous he is. And
come on, she goes, what do you got for me, Reverend? And
yeah,
it's like, come on, because at the end of the day, you're going to be tied to a chair and you're going to be screaming for your life while he's playing the piano, Judy Garland no less, and scaring the crap out of you.
yeah.
But you just so happen to be patronizing the little guy before. Don't underestimate crazy. I don't care if they live in the suburbs. Like that, crazy's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because she sort of sees through him like right away. Like he's this like reverend, which you don't even know if he's actually a reverend. I mean, it's sort of you makes you wonder if he's actually really a reverend. And I mean, the film really kind of one of the things it explores is like the different relationships people have with sex, and in his case, because he's this reverend, he has this guilt around sex, so he goes, to he's obviously clearly sexually attracted to China Blue, and you see him like at these peep shows, but then he's having fantasies of the woman in the peep show like dead, and he's even like practicing like killing like a big blow up doll of a woman. So it's making him like hate women because he has these desires for sexual desires for women, but he feels he can't act on that because of his faith, and because they're all, he's clearly kinky, this guy, and so he has this guilt around these sexual feelings, which are then turning into hatred, and he's making himself think, oh, I'm here because I have to save these women, I have to save their souls, and he
Yeah,
targets her. But really, these
exactly.
scenarios between the two of them are just games, you know. I mean, he's there, he pays to spend time with her to quote unquote save her, but this is all partly arousing for him. And for her,
Oh
it's
yeah,
just clear fun. Like, but she, you know, when she dresses up as a nun and comes out pantless, you know, just because she knew that was going to drive him crazy.
yeah.
And then of course it just starts to get, you know, he goes to her work, he's in the elevator with her, and then he tries, you know, ultimately to kill her. Um, Ken Russell, apparently that was his favorite part of the film, was working on that part of the film with the two of them, because it is so like surrealistic, and it almost looks like a giallo film, you know, like an Argento film with that these artificial
Okay.
lighting, like blue, red. It was so perfect because it is so bonkers that this like fashion designer at night is a prostitute and a fashion designer in a day. It feels like
Very
dream
big
logic.
fashion designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, that's why the movie can give you, it can kind of traumatize you a little bit because the lighting and all of the stuff that goes into it, cinematography, it does look like sets too. They look
Yeah.
like full blown sets, like facades. You're peeping through a facade. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly no movie like this.
Yeah. No, I agree. I haven't seen anything like it, but as like, you know, as sort of crazy or overwhelming as it seems, uh and you know, it has this like dark sense of humor. I mean, some of the dialogue between her and Perkins, I just had to read like some of the, like, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Right when he at the beginning, when he talks to her, he goes, "Save your soul, whore," and she goes, "Save your money, shithead." You know, I love that. And then what she later on, he says, "Don't fight me, child. I'm the messenger of God, and I only want to heal you." And she goes, "Heal thyself, pimp shit." Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just so good. And even the, you know, the when she hooks up later with Bobby, and he goes, "Oh, you work so hard. Do you ever take a day off?" And she goes, "Valentine's Day." You know, which is like so ironic that this prostitute at night, who's clearly disconnected and lonely, um, I mean, what a perfect thing to say. The most romantic day of the year is the day she rests. But some of the things that really, you know, I saw it twice. Second time, I mean, I really liked it at first. Second time, I loved it, and I saw so much more. But that's what really I thought was interesting, was these people's different relationships with sex. So as we discussed with the Reverend, in Kathleen Turner's case, she's this woman who was divorced, so she has all this
Yeah.
pain from that, and she's disconnected from others, and she's yet clearly craving a connection, but she has these. I mean, I just becoming a prostitute at night to me was a couple of things. Was sort of like, you know, she clearly has these sexual kinks. You know, you see in her apartment, she has all these like Japanese like sex artwork everywhere. But I think all it's also sort of gives her a lot of power over men, because I think the film is also commenting on you know, like patriarchal societies and like men being the ones in charge. And you see at work, you know, the boss is suspicious that she's spying on the company and giving things information to other fashion houses that what they're working on, and his only reason is because she works too hard, you know. So the what, you know, if she's working too hard, it must
It's
be she must be
suspicious.
doing something.
Yeah,
And if you notice, she's
that
dresses
line.
at work in a
Yeah,
suit and tie, you know, like she
yeah.
goes to work in a more masculine uh dress. And
Well, I
I
mean, that in fairness, that is the '80s a little bit, right?
True, but I don't know. I did women wear did women wear suits to
In
work?
fairness, I could say just Melanie Griffith kind of came to mind, and I was like, oh,
Oh, working
Working
girl.
Girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. you kind of had that over that big, you know, I that the big look, but it
The
does
shoulder
it's
pads.
true. Still, that's what's great about movies. I mean, I'm going off on a complete tangent that you just might edit out, but you love them anyway. That's what great is so great about movies. You, Robert, can look back on something and you can say, even down to that detail. And somebody's listening and going, yeah, that's how it just went back then. They didn't add that. And that's when you know you really won in terms of you've been won over by the audience or the movie as an audience. Because your mind is creating these really interesting scenarios and it loves it. Your mind loves it so much, it's going through every little thing and actually
Yeah.
concocting these
Yeah.
things.
Well, I think
The amount
so,
of time.
but if you look at, I mean, you'd have to ask yourself, why does she do this at night? And it reminded me of a similar things with Jane Fonda's character in Clute, like who's also a prostitute, but she feels. I mean, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. It's been a little while since I've seen Clute, but it gives her power over
It's control.
her own life, you know, and
Yeah.
that she is creating these fantasies for people, and she's this great performer, you know. And I think she it gives her a sense of being in control and being able to act out these fantasies so well for these various
Yeah.
clients, you know.
Well, as obvious, excuse me, but as obvious as that may sound, I think it's the thrill of it. Of, I at night leave and I make the biggest desires, most wildest dreams come true.
Yeah.
There, yeah, that's a sense of control. That's a sense of power, having
Yeah,
exerting
exactly.
another and saying, get down and it's dark because when you think of it, it's like she's using her body. The first time we see Kathleen Turner, she's in a very precarious position because I don't want to get too graphic. But it really is saying like this is who she is.
Yeah.
Or this is who she wants. This is the character you're about to be meeting and getting to know a little bit more. She's like sprawled right out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but she's doing that as that's her job, her night job, and she's the guy that she's with is literally he's going out of his mind, and she's enjoying it. She's performing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think it's all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of, like, did you ever see Belle de Jour with Catherine Deneuve? That also was
I saw that
similar.
when I was 13. Yeah, I
That
can
age,
remember.
that's your age right there. 13, 14. You saw all these great films.
Yeah, I know. It always goes back to 14 for some reason.
Yeah, but similar, you know, there are similar themes in the film. But that really stuck out to me
Yeah.
the second time. I'm like, this is beyond kink. This is like control. And what really kind of hit it home for me was that, you know, really it's a hard scene to watch with the police officer, but it is shot and directed and edited so well. I mean, it
They
is
did a
just
good job.
painful to watch. But you know, you see this cop and he's clearly abusing his power. He's like throwing some guy down. He's like taking change out of the newspaper vendor on the street. And then she pulls him in, and then of course, as we see as they're having sex, she then does a little, you know, let's make this AdSense friendly here for YouTube. She does a little something with his nightstick, you know, which leads to a little something, which, you know, then, well, we can say it because I've said the word before. I haven't been blocked, luckily, by Google. But when she rapes him, and that, you know, you ask yourself why, but then it's cutting to images in her mind of like police officers. It looks like protests, like they're all like they're like red tinted and cops like pushing people around by the looks of it. And again, it's that it's taking that like a cop, like an authority figure, a person of power, and then she is now the abuse maybe that she's had in her life. Now she is basically giving that back, so to speak. But the way he shot it, like the cat, like, cutting to his hands with the handcuffs and the blood all over it, and the camera, it looks like it's almost penetrating. It's going back, forth really quickly. Man, that is one hell of a sequence. Is that what you thought that was about?
No, I was just, whoa. What kind of filmmaker do you think it takes to make a film like this?
Ken Russell.
Yeah, what is a Ken Russell for your viewers that
Well,
haven't seen?
I haven't seen a lot of his movies. I've only seen a few. He also explored prostitution.
Have done that many?
No, he did a number of films. He did a lot
Okay,
of movies. Yeah.
that's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said he didn't do.
No, I didn't say that. So what kind of personality does it take? I mean, I can say
Oh, I think it's because
it on
he
myself.
sees things in transgressive ways. It's just yeah, just not looking at things in conventional ways. I think that's just
Oh, I
that's
think you said
just
transgression.
no transgressive. Yeah. That's good. We're a little yeah.
So a little bit of like, satire, flipping the script, trying to be. Do you think a lot of this film is meant for shock value?
It could be. I don't know if he's just necessarily trying to shock you. I think it's just the way in which they saw it. I mean, I read the writer said something interesting. Interesting. It was an openly gay writer who wrote this. Sandler, Barry Sandler. He said he started writing it in the 70s. He said, I was tapping into what was going on around me during the 80s. It was just at the beginning of the advent of the AIDS crisis. People had difficulties with their relationships. There was a lot of sex going on, and it was very easily accessible. And a lot of people were using it as kind of an excuse or a defense or a rationale or some way to avoid intimacy, to avoid relationships.
Well, I
Um,
mean, if you look at Perkins's track record, yeah. I mean, he let his freak flag fly when it came to this role. I mean, really, this was Perkins. This was Perkins in real life. And he also came up with his own character. There's a new character on that script when it was handed over to him. He looked at it and said, can we change this? And he created his own character.
yeah, because I heard his character was originally it was a psychiatrist, I think, or a filmmaker. It may have been both of those things.
Then, changed it to the Hollywood Boulevard, Reverend on a soapbox, which interesting if you don't live in LA. And yeah, but this was truly Perkins and all of his there's a birthday card that he wrote in it, and Barry wrote, "May all of your wildest dreams come true." He wrote under it, "Maybe not your wildest." And truth be told, I have stolen that line. Those two, when I don't know what to say for happy birthday people. But it's just, he's saying maybe not your wildest for a very good reason. I mean, during the late 70s, especially in New York, there was the sex was like, whew, the shops, the porn shops, it was lining up. It wasn't in the theater. Yeah, it was. It was in the theater district. Studio, what was it, Robert? Studio 64?
Yeah, 54.
54?
Yeah.
A bit. But yeah, I mean, what he came up with his own character. That's pretty trippy. And so that writer is completely right.
Why, when you say this was him, do you mean because this is like the way he felt often because he couldn't come out as gay, so he had this guilt, perhaps, and maybe conflicted feelings or self-hatred, or is that what I'm not saying that's true, but is that maybe what you're getting at?
I really don't know. No, my theory is, and I know you like theories. My theory is he got behind characters at a specific point in his life, namely when he knew he had AIDS. And he got behind characters that he knew he can shine his real self through them. So for instance, like Play It As It Lays, he didn't have AIDS with Play It As It Lays. He didn't contract AIDS then, but he was behind these characters and he was saying, look at what I'm doing. People knew, it was no secret. People knew that he was gay and that he had been with men, and it was no secret whatsoever. But the secret, I suppose, is, where's that line that you can step into? Gosh, I really want to name like one of the biggest actors that is in fact gay that nobody knows. But imagine a George Clooney, it's not George Clooney, comes out in a role that is verging on being, this sick, predatorial person. We're going to be like, as audience members, we're going to think, oh, wait, is George Clooney the nice guy? Is he a little bit like this character? Because this is a weird departure. It's so left turn that it must be true. And so I think he liked doing that. He liked kind of stepping over the line, even though it wasn't a great like PR move. I'm in a Starbucks, so of course I'm going to go on more tangents than usual. Yeah, what was the question?
Well, just like, when you say this is him, I was curious, like what you meant. I mean, I know that it was an open secret amongst Hollywood, but obviously the public didn't know he was gay, and he was married, he had kids. So I don't know, if what his feelings were about his sexuality, but in this film, he's this guy who sort of has all these conflicting feelings about his sexuality. So I imagine that's what you're maybe getting at.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got Perkins, who went to a psychoanalyst, who was SARS, was converted into a heterosexual due to the power of positive thinking. I mean, geez, he worked with her for like 14 years or some ridiculous number, got married, had kids. And that's already suspect. What I'm saying is that during the 70s, he was in late 70s, early 80s, he was very into kink, BDSM. And if you really want to get into it, Robert, just, he was.
Hey, this is the film for it.
Well, look, I'm a gentle lover, and I like to always remain a gentle lover. I come in slow. I don't come in hot. That's always Janaé. That's always going to remain me. I come in hot in other areas. Okay, moving on. He had his kinks, and he had his wildest dreams. Nobody writes, maybe not your wildest, but nobody writes them unless they have some pretty wild nightmares that haunt them.
Well, when you watch this film, you can't help but think of Norman Bates. I mean, with this is almost like Norman Bates 20 years later in some ways. What do you think about it? You've got the people.
Any movie that you watch that you can't help but to think of Norman Bates?
With him, you mean?
Yeah. Tear this mother down. Like, seriously, let's tear it down. Is there any movie that you can watch and you can safely say, I did not see Norman in there?
Well, I mean, probably, what was that one? Remember My Name?
Fair point, but
yeah,
you see a little bit.
Or even, I mean, they're often very troubled, borderline, psychotic, or not always characters. But in this one, I mean, down to the peephole, like
Yeah.
Norman as he's looking at Kathleen Turner. I mean, you couldn't help but think of Psycho, like literally directly
And I
speak.
think that's intentional. Like I know with Under the Silver Lake, with Andrew's character, Andrew Garfield, he wanted to have a Spider-Man comic book, like near off to the side for his character to kind of look at. And he wanted it to stick to his hand. And as a character, he's like, what? And he takes it off because he's making fun. And I think that Perkins knew that as well. He knew the gravitas behind, Norman and the trilogy, the legacy behind it. And so it does. The first time you see him is literally through a peephole,
Yeah,
but he's snorting cocaine. I
right.
think he did cocaine, right? Or maybe ketamine, or you would
Yeah,
know.
something. Yeah, probably Coke, the character, or this is the '80s after all, or
Yeah,
or something like
it's
that. And then, of course, at the end, down to being in drag as he's killed. I mean, it's, I mean, there are so many, must have been intentional kind of homages to Psycho. But the
you have to
the
take a
other
shower.
the other thing that I again, these kind of relationships with sex is, the married couple, Bobby and Amy, they're like high school sweethearts. It's almost cliche in a sense. He was like the guy on the football team. They got married, high school sweethearts. They got like the house in the suburbs, the kids. They seem to be having like financial issues, and the kid needs braces. Now they can't get the hot tub they wanted, things like that. But their problems are mostly, or not even mostly, are rooted in the fact that she seems to have no interest in having sex with him. She doesn't like to have sex with him at all. And she can't admit this. She has a hard, it's, creating tension between them. And when we see him off the top, he's in this like support group. He went with his friend who's like going through this divorce. Everyone's divorced. Everyone has been divorced or is going to get divorced in this movie. And again, it's another theme in the film, is like the masks people wear, because he talks about the fact that, oh, oh no, my marriage is fine and everything's fine, and then he begins to see, oh, things are not fine, and as he confronts her, does that great scene with them in bed. It's just that two shot, and she basically admits, oh, it's not important to me. What does it matter, as long as you're satisfied? And I love what he says. He's like, what do you think? I just want to, he says something like, what do you think? I just want to put something in a hole. There's got to be a connection. There has to be more to it. This, of course, is when they decide to separate. But that was so interesting to me. That aspect of the film is because I think ultimately the film is like exploring like human relationships, and like the connection between sex and a physical and an emotional connection, and how do you sustain those two things? How do they grow? Can they, how do you grow those things together? And in their case, that it's like that part of it seems to be totally broken, which is part of the reason why he starts this affair with China Blue. And I mean, that sex scene, I could help but also laugh because like the silhouette of the two of them, and it's like they're switching to every sex position you could think of. And then I thought if he's so bad in bed, how could he be pleasing China Blue, who's had all this? And I was like, maybe his wife. I thought maybe she was gay. I mean, maybe she doesn't know it, because I don't know. This guy seems to be pretty. If you ask China
Yeah.
Blue, I thought maybe that was a possibility, but they clearly find a connection while he's with China Blue. She feels it, he feels it, and then he has this affair with her. And I just thought that was really interesting, because if we go to the ending, where he's back in the support group, and it's so crude. I mean, he looks I mean, if he is in love, I don't, truly in love and truly happy, I don't think you'd go to a support group and start to say something like, "Well, we don't have a lot in common, but we both know we need help." And then he looks and he smiles and he says something like, "Oh, we just fuck each other's brains out," and then it just ends. And I just thought, I don't think the film is just like saying, "Well, problem solved." As long as you have a good sex life, everything's fine. I think he's teasing you in a sense at the end. I think maybe people think that's the solution. Oh, if only our physical relationship was amazing, then that would solve everything. And I
Yeah.
think, like, the main character, I think he thinks, and I think we're all kind of naive that way to think that that will solve everything. But I think it's ultimate because he's saying, well, we don't have, I mean, not that you have to have a lot in common to be in love, but would you really go to a group and say, we don't have a lot of common, we need help? And we just, in such a juvenile way. So to me, I think the film is just basically not giving any solution to the problems people have in the film with sex and physical and emotional needs. I think it's ultimately saying these things are hard and we don't, there's no answer to these things growing in unison. I don't know if was that your impression? I know I just spewed a lot there, but
No, it's good. I like how you said that it's like it's because a relationship shouldn't the foundation of it shouldn't be sex, right?
right.
Right? I mean, seriously, you said it, but I want to hear you say it again because it was honestly refreshing. It's not we people can make the argument that we're primal creatures. We are people who need that. And it's like, well, if you are in love with someone or if you want the relationship with a person, you can't have a foundation of sex, of wanting or expecting. It could be tricky. It could be tricky when you're
Yeah.
dealing with another person. And yeah, I mean, especially when sex is such a, it's just, it's so, the, in and of itself, it's something that really needs to be handled with care. And then there's obviously other people that think completely differently than me. They go at it like jackrabbits or they don't care what they, but if you want a relationship, if you want love, if we're talking about love, then, your foundation should obviously be communication rather than you wondering, does she not know she's gay or is she
Right.
gay and not telling?
Right.
It's like, well, maybe if they work on their communication, they can actually talk about the problems. And maybe the problems are not just solely surrounding sex. Maybe once they actually start communicating, they can go, oh, wow, I really don't like that about you. Forget the sex for a second. That's what actually pisses me off. But I just found that out now because we're talking about it. And that's like all of this stuff can go into such a rabbit hole of a conversation because it's so complex, it's so nuanced in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, it just needs to be handled with care and patience and but yeah, I mean, the movie though, it goes the complete opposite obviously of that. It's not about that whatsoever, but that line I do believe that, yeah, it kind of is, it could be like a ha ha to
Yeah.
that. You know what I'm saying, because in the end, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's people out there who think it's a complete joke what I could be saying right now. And then there's other people who they still want that, but they don't do it. They don't put themselves out there. I don't know where she falls though. China Blue. You said disconnected, but longing for some connection. I think that's true. I think they kind of all are,
Yeah.
but in their misguided ways, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I down to the Reverend. I mean, I think he is as well, but he's just
yeah, The
his
guy thinks he's
relationship with
God
sex
and he ends
is,
up in bag in the end.
yeah.
He has a lot of issues. Everybody here has issues. Like they have issues of. I mean, I can even argue another theme, analysis, and say, look, she's just so pissed off with her beautiful life that she wants to, get let her free flag fly. That's the kind of she doesn't like her penthouse, going to her penthouse. She wants to go to a crummy, disgusting motel on Sunset Boulevard. That's what gets her off at the end of the night. But yeah,
Well, it's really, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's so nuanced, it's so layered, and it's so complicated. And I know we touched on, it's these masks people wear in life. The Reverend has his mask. China Blue has her mask, literally as being China Blue, being a performer, an actor, acting out these men's kinky fantasies as well as perhaps her own. And then the married couple thinking everything is fine. But
yeah,
things are clearly not fine. And so they're wearing these masks in order to survive. And I thought it was so interesting that there's a picture. It's like there's a picture in their house of the kids and all of them on the lawn. You only see it briefly, and he's shirtless with the lawnmower, and it's just so inappropriate. I'm like, what is that all about? And she's like arm in arm
I
with
didn't see
him.
that.
Yeah, again, it's another like
That like
fantasy.
a
It's
take
like
on. Well, is that like the a perverted take on like the nuclear family? If
I
it
think
could be
so, yeah.
a perverted take. Okay.
I think so. It's such an interesting image, but again, I saw it as almost like, you know, this is like what she want, like, she it's 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 hard to even describe. It's like the great suburban home life with the great sex all like,
Oh
mixed
gosh.
into one, but in a way which in their case it just doesn't quite fit, in their individual case. You could even say that he's sort of commenting on consumerism to an extent because, when they go and watch television together, there's this freaky music video of like a married couple and the kid has got like one like all these teeth missing with the dove in the cage, and then they have all this cutlery, and then the cutlery gets thrown into the pool and they jump into the pool, and of course it's like that thing of like just drowning of all these, we thought this was the answer, but it's not the answer. She even comments on when he's trying to get something started between them. She's like, oh, we got cable now, like, you know I just thought again, it's a whole, I love that song too. I mean, the score is unbelievable. Rick Wakeman did the score, and
Rick
the
who?
score is amazing for this film. It's like this like electronic punk rock.
What else did he do?
um I have to look it up, but the film that I'm talking about in the song in the music video is by it's called It's a Lovely Life. So I know, ironic. Um Performed by Maggie Bell, lyrics by Norman Gimbel. But that, oh, so Rick Wakeman did the music for that as well. I like how even Perkins is credited for Get Happy, performed by Anthony Perkins. That great song. But yeah, the soundtrack, oh my God. Did any of that like
Yeah.
did any of that sort of consumer culture pop up to you as well?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I that always pops up to me, and I have no idea why. Like, I'm able to catch on to that stuff pretty quickly. I wonder what's a part of my own mask that likes that gravitates towards consumerism or anti-consumerism. Um, as I sit in a Starbucks. Um, yeah, I mean, I saw that with when we see her penthouse.
Oh yeah.
We see a very nice penthouse and beautiful clothes. the job or the career fashion designer. I mean, those are all very important, and I would think that he's commenting on that as along with the whole double life aspect as well. But yeah, I did not know there was a photo or a painting though of suburban life mixed in with the fantasy of like, just
Yeah, check it out again. It's very brief. It's very, very brief.
That sounds so dirty and gross. It's like,
it's back to that kind of dark sense of humor that the film has. Though.
That's like nuclear family has a fantasy of BDSM. Like, what did I just say? Like that.
Well, again, it's like, and the kids are a little bit further away from them, and again, it just looks like, oh, these just doesn't fit. It's like a metaphor for the fact that in their own life they can't make things fit or work. That's how I saw it. But here it is with Rick Wakeman. It's the synth. That's a hard word to say. Synthesizer heavy score, the majority of which is made up of melodies directly lifted from Czech composer Antonin Dvorak's New World Symphony. Yeah, man, I love the score. I could just like get the CD or the soundtrack for that that score. The other thing I just wanted to mention was that great scene between China Blue and the older man who's dying. Because it's so interesting, like, just to put it in context, is this woman approaches her, says that her husband's dying, but she just can't bring herself to be intimate with him anymore. So she hires this prostitute to make him feel like a quote unquote like a man again, so to speak. And she's performing with him at first, and then he just starts to cry. He can't do it. And then she takes her wig off and says, "Oh, my name is actually Joanna." And it was one of the first times where she dropped her mask and stopped, pretending to be someone else. And I think she was deeply moved because he is at this place where he's just being so real and honest, and vulnerable as a person dying. And I think, for her, that just kind of gave her the confidence to just be herself in that moment. I love that scene. That scene was so deeply moving. I don't know if that was your favorite.
No, that's a perfect transition because I was just thinking, how about you said you just wanted to say one last thing. Am I correct in that assumption?
Let's see. Let's see what happens. Go ahead.
Okay, because that's a perfect segue into, I think we should end this in the context of sharing some honesty, with masks and just wow, something very, very honest needs to be said now.
Go ahead, Janaé. I'll leave that to you.
No, you both need to go into the deep end. It's you and I. Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your confession? we need the reverend here.
Oh gosh. No. Just to pull down the mask. Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to think. I'll ask you a question. First question that comes to mind. I wish I thought of something better, but what's the one thing that you have found yourself doing in front of people to feel more liked? Or I'll give you an option because options are good with circumstances like these. What is one very honest thing that you have, very honest and vulnerable thing that you have done in life that calls to mind right now that you never expected yourself to actually be able to do? Possibly out of fear, possibly out of oppression. I don't know.
I refuse. I'm gonna keep my mask on for that.
No, that's not
well, I'll answer what you said before, but when you say what kind of things do you think you consciously do?
Yes.
to be liked. But I think for me, sometimes, I mean, I'm always interested in others anyways, and like I like to get to know people. But sometimes I think that if I don't do that, then people aren't, they're gonna think I'm cold or aloof or distant. And so I always like make sure like, oh, if I don't do that, then they won't like me. I gotta like, even though, it's like I want to do it, but then I also make sure I do it. If that makes sense.
So you stop yourself. Is that what I'm hearing? You literally stop yourself from, it's not that you consciously decide to do things, you're consciously deciding not to do specific things.
Well, I'm making sure that I gives people that time to like get to
Yeah.
know if like I'm that way anyways, but like if I don't do it, I feel bad about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't ask
Hmm.
them a little bit about their life or whatever, and now
Yeah.
I look like I'm like cold.
Oh, well, maybe that's just common decency. But hey, it depends. I get what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
You'd be surprised
All
how many
right.
people don't ask others about themselves.
No, no. I
Yeah.
mean, I was talking to somebody literally yesterday, over like a non-existent coffee at another cafe. Um, and I caught wind of how the dude, not once did he say, "What about you?"
Right.
Those three words. What about you? I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's interesting. This guy literally has not said it
Oh, it's very
once.
common. Yeah. It's very I read once that when people try to actually go and find out why they have a hard time communicating with others, their like mind is blown by discovering that they should ask people about themselves. They're like, oh my God, I never thought of
They
that.
should just shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you just shut up and you actually listen,
Hmm.
you can, oh my gosh, you can know so much about so many people if you just sit back and you just listen and if you pay attention rather than ask for attention. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just learned that about you.
There you go.
Uh,
And now everybody on YouTube did as well.
yeah, I mean, they want to know about Robert Policino.
Sure.
They don't
I'm
want
willing
to
I'm
know
willing to
that.
confess something every now and then. Actually, even though I said one lot, there's now some other things are coming to my mind. But voyeurism plays a part in the film as well because he is hired. Bobby, he gets hired to follow her because he needs another job. He's struggling with money, so he goes into surveillance. How he knows how to be such a surveillance expert is not really explained, but that's okay. I could take a leap of faith on that. Um, because he has like his own business or something. But anyways, he spies on her, just like the boss is spying on her, just like the Reverend is spying on her. Again, I think it's this metaphor for trying to take this power away from this woman. I think that's partly why the Reverend wants to kill her because he's seeing that she is forming a connection with Bobby that's deeper, and he doesn't think that she deserves to not be China Blue, and or he's also jealous because he clearly has feelings, at least a sexual feelings for her. That could be interpreted in many ways. But what I like, Bobby is so kind of accepting of her. He doesn't judge her that she's a prostitute. When he sees her place with all these artwork, sex artwork, he's like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, which was interesting. Like he just kind of accepts her for who she is. Which is also great. In
That
a
should have been
positive
the scene.
aspect.
That
What
should
was
have been
that?
in it. It just should have been a shot, like a medium close up of him going, "Oh, that's cool," and then he just
It says something like
like,
that.
yeah, yeah, Bobby. Oh, that's cool.
Like the artwork.
Yeah.
I don't think I had anything else. Was there anything you wanted to mention, Janae?
No, you're a sick guy. That's it. You keep picking these
Sick
thrillers.
that I'm
Yeah.
passionate about Crimes of Passion. It is on
Yeah.
Arrow put it out on Blu-ray.
It's on
Uh,
Pluto TV as well, you guys. If you
yeah, it's
want to
on
get free,
Canopy. You can see it on Canopy. But when it came out in America, they cut it down, or else it was going to get a X rating. I think they cut the
Yeah.
rape scene out, other parts. Um, but now you can see the full thing. It wasn't. I don't believe it was cut in Europe at all.
I
But
think
yeah,
we should
that
close
really
with a
pissed
song.
Ken Russell off naturally for they messed his work up.
Well, I think we should close with a song, as one does. So
I'll throw
let
it
your
to you.
troubles
Come
come
on, get
on,
happy.
you gotta chase all your cares away. Shout
I'm not.
hallelujah, come on, get happy.
I'll answer a few
Get
personal
happy,
questions, but I will not sing.
come on, you got to. Wait, what is it? The sun is shining. Ah, come on, get happy. Wait, he goes, you gotta play the piano. Here, you
Yeah,
play the piano, I'll sing.
if I had one, if I had one, I wonder if he was actually playing. I don't know if he played, but
No, he was. He was
oh, he was
playing.
playing. Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
I love that part.
He was playing. But he wasn't just playing. He was going like,
Yeah, and
forget your
lastly,
troubles. Come on.
you gotta love the dildo knife. I mean, that's just like
Yeah,
the metaphor for him.
but it's
Knife
a
and a dildo.
torpedo. It's not a dildo. It's a torpedo. Um, yeah, and lick me, whip me, licorice.
Oh yeah,
Um,
all his like, and he's like, he has no shame about it. She finds like all of his like sex toys, and he's like, yeah, this is licorice
he
whip,
had
and
shame. No, he had shame. He was like, he said, "These are the
oh yeah,
devil
I guess he
things.
did. Yeah,
Like you touch them, they'll burn. You'll burn if you touch them. Like, geez, man, like yeah, he was definitely on coke. His character, like, he
yeah,
had a coke problem because he's just like,
he's a
oh, that's
troubled
it's not.
guy. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean, it's certainly one of his greatest performances. I thought. I mean, he is so good in this movie. Um,
he's good. He's
yeah,
good, and that's what worries me.
right. That he was that good in this. I know. Um,
Yeah,
but
that it worries me.
I loved him in it. Can you talk a little bit about what you're working on now, Janae?
Um, okay.
Get the eccentric look
No,
out.
I don't. So I have been working on something. You know, Robert, you were highly aware of it. And you thought I was going to say something witty. No, Robert, you're in it.
I am.
A lot of people are in it. Isn't that true? This is what I can say. A lot of people are in it. And when I say a lot, I mean like there's like over 30 people in this.
Wow.
And I have never expected this to become this. And having this time with you, Robert, on this was such a treat because I got to know you in ways where there was no mask. It was just making fun of each other without feeling disrespected whatsoever, having fun.
True.
I would hear Savannah say, like, you guys have such great chemistry, and it's just because you're an overall, like, fantastic guy, so incredibly talented. Never once did I direct you. I just said, go, and we would just improv. But this is something that is extremely exciting. I'm extremely grateful for. And will anybody know about it via social media? No.
No.
Via website? No. And that's how it goes when there's legal involved.
That just leaves us wanting more. Yeah, because I noticed your website's gone and your last Instagram post was 2022.
Yeah,
So we
I
won't go
know.
into social media handles then.
Well, it's very difficult to get a hold of me if you do not have my number. And the people who do have my number, it's yeah, I was just thinking of a number change recently and just kind of cycling through different numbers because it's there's reasons behind the website going down. There's reasons behind the no social media. And a lot of that has to do with the project that I'm currently working on. And just different life transitions where it feels fantastic to not need to, yeah, I can't say anymore. I feel like I'm in front of a very good friend of mine and I'm like, but just tell me you're my friend and you can talk to me about this but you are a great guy. You're a little warped, but good. Very good.
That's what I want people to think of me. Warped, but a good guy. That's perfect.
Well, I mean, everybody has their flaws, right?
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yes. As we saw in Crimes of Passion as well.
I'm curious because you do know this project. You do know what it is.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun doing it, those scenes. So I'm looking forward to seeing it.
The most vague version of this. No film references, no nothing. I want to hear your most vague, where you're not giving away any details. What is that?
Someone trying to confront herself in some way. I won't say how.
Okay, yeah, and that comes right after he just said the whole entire plot, and he edited it out.
I'll cut it out.
Yeah, that came right after he said the whole thing.
Good.
Whoever she is.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to hearing more about it and seeing it. So, thanks for coming back. I know you'll be back. We have Marathon Man planned. So,
yes, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah,
Dustin,
we'll set that up sometime soon. But thanks again, Janaé, for coming, and look forward to the next one.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link, patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. Patreon is exclusive content that I create month in and month out. And as a subscriber, you are able to vote on polls and contribute to what I do on Patreon month in and month out. So head over to the link for full details. You can also leave a donation directly to my YouTube channel by pressing the thanks link, which you will find directly below the video frame. Just click on the thanks link and you can leave a donation there if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. It is absolutely free to do so. By pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo, you will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left. In just a second, just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes. Also click the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this episode. Also, you can also share the episode. All of these things are what produce traction to my YouTube channel. So I appreciate you watching and thank you again. And I will see you in the next episode.